in South Africa's mining history and has resulted in around about 20 billion rand in lost revenue and 9.2 billion in forfeited wages. Well, to talk more about the new developments on the mining industrial action, we're joined in studio by Tony Healy. He's a labour expert from Tony Healy and Associates. Good to have you, Tony. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Leanne.
This is an unprecedented strike. I mean, we're saying this is the longest it's been in South Africa, perhaps even in the world.
I think internationally this would rank amongst, very much so, amongst the longest strikes we've seen.
Yeah, which is having devastating effects on South Africa, on our economy, on the platinum mining industry, on the miners. Just talk to us about the latest coming out of this.
Well, the latest developments really are that we have an interministerial task team that's been put together, including ministerial representation from the Mineral Resources Ministry, the Treasury, the Department of Labour, and they've attempted to intervene now in the 5th month of the strike, remembering that the parties themselves have failed to resolve it. The CCMA has been unsuccessful, the Labour Court has tried to help, and now the Ministers is trying to help. And my understanding is at the moment that really the ministerial proposal is that the parties meet each other halfway.
Okay. When we mean halfway, they're wanting this over a 4-year period, the union. So what would that be, 2 years instead from government's perspective?
Well, the employers are proposing 4 years. The union is looking for a minimum of, a maximum of 2. They want to get there quicker.
Yeah.
Government saying yes, they think that that's something that the employers ought to consider.
Okay.
The difficulty now, Leanne, is that both parties have been striking for, well, the union's been striking for so long, the employers have been holding out for so long, and whichever of the two parties ultimately makes a compromise will do so and resolve the strike, but there could be credibility issues. You know, if you strike for 4 or 5 months and then give in, how are you going to be viewed next year? And the same for the employers. If they hold out for 4 or 5 months and then give in, how are they going to be viewed next year? Because the reality is, we're actually not that far off beginning negotiating next year's wage negotiations in the platinum strike.
Yeah, that's the reality. So, just to refresh memories, AMKO is demanding a 12,500 rand basic salary for the lowest paid underground employee to be phased in over 4 years. Is this unrealistic?
Well, the mining houses would say so. The difficulty is that if you do the numbers, let's say that the mining houses were to give AMKO what they want. The reality is, it would mean therefore that the cost of producing the platinum would be more expensive than the price that the mining houses receive when they sell it. So I've heard a loose number being used that if AMKO's demand was met immediately by the mining houses, it would cost 30,000 rand to produce an ounce of platinum, when on the open market at the moment it's being sold for 22,000 rand. So the economics, unfortunately, don't add up. No matter how sympathetic you are to the plight of the strikers, the economics just don't add up.
We've been seeing intervention from many levels, but now we're seeing the Mineral Resources Minister, NGOAKO RAMATLHODI, coming in, talks happening today. How influential do you think his department is, and how influential is he in trying to resolve this?
I think he's influential. I think he also comes in at an important time. There is enormous strike fatigue. The parties have to be ripe for an agreement, and government has a vested interest in this dispute being resolved. So I think he comes in at an opportune time with quite a skillful team. But of course, unfortunately, we're not seeing much progress being made.
Yeah. This, we've spoken about, has been the longest running strike in the history of South Africa. It's cost the companies involved 28 billion rand so far. We're seeing our growth, which is already being hampered. What does the future look like for South Africa if this continues?
Well, I think it looks pretty grim, clearly. It's already grim given the nature of this strike. We know that AMKO are going to the Labour Court today to find out about whether they can continue with a protected strike in the gold sector. We hear about NUMSA potentially going on strike, and NUMSA has 350,000 members countrywide. So that's a massive industry, metal, engineering, and the like. So unfortunately though, Leanne, it is really just a continuation of the labour landscape we've seen for many years, which is polarity between the parties, polarity between labour and employers, and very little harmony and very little common ground.
We're going to now talk in the next interview. We're going to continue talking about this, but we're going to take it from the perspective of the actual miner, because they haven't been paid since January. They are getting into debt. They don't have the money and the capacity. How have AMKO managed to pull this one off, that they have managed to keep their members off work for that long? How are they surviving? I mean, I know it's a tough question for you to answer,
yes,
but that's the reality.
The fact is that charitable organizations have stepped in. So there are various that have camped out in Marikana in the general Rustenburg area and across the Platinum Belt. So you'll find church groups, charity groups there, trying to assist, trying to feed, trying to raise clothing, who are going into winter and the like. But it is astounding. I think it surprised everybody that the strike has endured for so long, and that the strikers themselves have managed to endure financially for such. But there's no doubt they've been crippled financially enormously. And they've lost amounts of income which they'll never recover in their lifetime.
I mean, we're talking in the tune of 9.2 billion rand in forfeited wages through this strike.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to us. We'll watch very, very closely what unfolds today. And as you heard, the Minister hoping that a deal will be reached by the end of this week. Well, that remains to be seen. Tony Healy is a labour specialist talking to us about this issue. Thank you very much for joining us. As I said,